Welcome to SleepyHollowRadio.com. This is Madison Morgan.
And I'm Margaret Andruss.
And today we are joined by a very special guest. Born in California and raised between there and Tulsa, Oklahoma, Bill Irwin is not only a graduate of the Theatrical Arts program of Oberlin College, but also of Ringling Brothers and Barnum and Bailey Circus Clown College as well. He's been known as a vaudeville clown, a dancer, a performance artist, an actor, a writer, a director, and even a producer. We might even also mention that along his incredible journey, he has also won the 2005 Tony Award for Best Actor. We feel fortunate to have him on our show today. Please welcome Bill Irwin.
Good afternoon. What a wonderful greeting and introduction. It's good to be with you both on Sleepy Hollow Radio.
Yes, we're so happy to have you here today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so for our first question, in our introduction, we mentioned about 7 different titles that are used by others to describe what you do. Which do you embrace and how do you describe yourself?
What a good question. Generally, I call myself an actor, at least these days, but it also depends on what I'm doing. When I apply for a mortgage, those are the moments I don't use the word clown.
Mm-hmm.
But clown is a word is a title I'm proud to take on. It's a long historic arc to that word, and I'm a proud clown. But it depends on who I'm talking to and what it is I'm trying to get at that moment.
Mm-hmm. Yes, you definitely have some very unique titles. But your earliest roles were that of a clown. How was it attending clown college, and in what ways, if any at all, has it created a foundation for all your other forms of acting?
Another good question. Interestingly enough, I thought of myself as an actor before I went to the clown college in 1974 when I was 24 years old. My first identification was as an actor, and I was an actor who wouldn't quite settle into that category, and I found myself fascinated with physical performing, and especially for large groups of people or small groups of people, but what were called in those days the popular performing arts, or popular performance. So there I found myself in Venice, Florida, at the Ringling Brothers Clown College, where they got us up every day and made us do warm-up exercises on these heavy-duty rubber mats that were also the mats that were under the animal acts.
Oh.
So there was something of an odor. But it was it was just an 8-week course, and it was some of the best and hardest, but best 8 weeks of my life.
Oh, wow. That's amazing.
Yeah. All right, so in broad strokes for us non-actors, could you describe the greatest differences between stage, TV, and movie acting?
Ooh, thank you for that question. I'm still working on it, and every actor I know is still working on it. Most people have a stage orientation first, and then they move to what we call camera acting, whether it's television or movie acting. Your job as a camera actor is to allow that camera eye to see what you're doing as if it were an audience eye in the theater, but often that eye is in a close-up shot, it's like 3 feet from you. The camera is really close to you. I always loved reading about Robert De Niro, one of our great camera actors, and incidentally, maybe not the greatest stage actor in the world, as he might be the first to say. But as a young man, he knew he wanted to be a camera actor, and the story goes that he would nail bottle caps on the wall in his little apartment and practice being seen from different points of view.
That's cool.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah.
He knew how to think, and he made himself practice how to be seen and put his performance into that eye. Whereas when you're on stage, you have to think of, especially in a theater with a wide proscenium or a wide bank of audience people, you have to think, oh, Those people over way to my left need to see what I'm in and hear what I'm doing, as well as those people way to my right. So that's one difference in the craft.
That's a really good way to practice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would not have thought of that.
Me neither.
Okay, so in 2005, you won a Tony Award for Best Actor for your portrayal of George in Edward Albee's Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf. We can keep a secret. Did the Tonys tell you in advance that you had won?
They did not. They
wow.
No, the 5 nominees of us, and this happens every year, but I just remember 2005 really well. The 5 of us were sitting in that category. We're sitting where we could all see each other. And fortunately, my wife was to my left, and my agent and my manager were also to my left. So when they called my name, I just remember my wife and I, our foreheads going really tight, close together for a moment. And of course, speaking of cameras, you know you're on camera. The CBS camera is covering the Tony Awards. And I reached over to my agent, my manager. My son, unfortunately, was about 12 rows back. I had to turn around and wave to him as best possible. And I had to thank, with a quick grasp handshake, my fellow actors in a 4-person play, and it is a 4-person organism. So I had to thank them. And then you better head toward the stage, because the Tony Awards, interestingly enough, are all about stage work. So when people say, yeah, he was nominated for a Tony, so-and-so won a Tony, you know it's work on stage. But the Tony ceremony is all about being on TV. And you better not waste television time. So you have to quickly get up onto the stage. Thank my presenter. I got to shake hands with Don Cheadle as he handed me the Tony. And then I knew, because we had been warned, this they did tell us. They told everybody in the category, do not talk too long. That in your head. Even if you think you're not going to win, have a speech in your head. And I did my best to cover the speech that I had prepared in my head. And then the next thing you know, you're backstage. And it was a Radio City Music Hall where I had worked years before, so I knew all the stage hands. Then the next thing you know, somebody's whisking you out to the street so that you can go around the block and come back in from the back of the theater.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a surreal time.
Interesting.
Yeah, very. So did winning the Tony noticeably change your career path, and were many more roles opened up to you because of it?
That's something generally an actor will never know. It's very hard to know why somebody is calling you and asking you to come in and audition, or why somebody's calling your agent and offering an offer, or why, for that matter, somebody else got the role that you were thinking you were perfect for, and you never got a call or never heard anything. It's generally a mystery. The thing you know for sure is that they often start sticking Tony Award winning in front of your name. And that you can tell the difference between the day before and the day after the Tonys. But generally, most everything else is a mystery in this profession.
Okay, so with such a long and rich list of accomplishments, you are often most recognized as your lovable portrayal of Mr. Noodles on Sesame Street. Can you...
Proudly so. Sorry.
No.
Proudly so.
Can you briefly talk about this role and how it came about and what it has meant to you?
I will try. It means a lot, and I've been doing it a long time. I'll tell you something interesting. When they invented this character, there was a wonderful Sesame Street producer named Arlene Sherman, I believe was her name. She's no longer with us, and people at Sesame Street still speak so reverently and meaningfully of her name. There was a debate as to whether it should be Mr. Noodle or Mr. Noodles. And I always say, well, I'll answer to either one. Sometimes I put an S on there, sometimes other people do. But it's actually Mr. Noodle, as the character appears on Sesame Street, and it was just a brilliant stroke that Arlene had. She said, "What if there's a character, and the kids know more than he does?"
Oh.
And she said, "Would that make kids feel? Would that empower them?" That's one of those buzzwords. But it would also just engage them and give them a feeling of what it is to help nurture something, help teach somebody. For the first couple of times Mr. Noodle appeared, we had kids live right there in the studio.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was great. It turned out to be a terribly expensive and just so generally for all the years ever since those first few, the kids' voices are done in what's called post-production. So kids are shown a video of what we've already shot. And I've always been sorry that that's the case, because we're sort of guessing what the kids' reaction will be. But the idea is, what if a grown-up, a guy with a mustache, 6 feet tall, doesn't quite know what he's doing, and young kids need to help him out.
Yeah.
So I'll tell you, if there's time, I'll tell you my favorite Mr. Noodle experience. We've shot many pieces for Sesame Street, and I've enjoyed them all, even though TV work is tough work. You do it fast, you do long hours. But my favorite was a charity event where they auctioned off trick-or-treating with Mr. Noodle. So the high bidders were a family somewhere in Rockland County, and I showed up in my Mr. Noodle garb and just was just helped around and shepherded around from house to house as we trick-or-treated by a bunch of really young kids. So I had the greatest time in bed. I would knock on the mailbox at the front door, and there's now, Mr. Come with us, Mr. Noodle. It was just a brilliant idea for a character where an adult needs kids' help.
Yeah.
That's really interactive, and it's so cute.
It is very cute.
Thank you.
Right. So, in our research of your career, we found that you have worked on films with some of the greatest directors of our time: Robert Altman, Jonathan Demme, Paul Mazursky, M. Night Shyamalan, and Julie Taymor, to name a few. Could you maybe pick one or two and tell us what it was like working with them and what type of influence they had on your acting?
That is a hard one, but I certainly will think about my friend and former neighbor, Jonathan Demme, who's no longer with us, but we at that time, and I was Michael Frank's neighbor at that time too, we lived not too far from each other. He called me and said, "Come over, I want you to read this script." And I read it, and it was a beautiful script. And I did the stupidest thing an actor can do. I said, "God, this is so good. This character feels to me like he's Jewish, not Irish. And he feels like," and I just about talked myself right out of being considered for the role. Fortunately, Jonathan stuck with his instincts, and he cast me as the father, Paul, in one of his great movies, Rachel Getting Married. And it was the best movie-making experience. It was the lowest paid, but the best I've ever been part of, partly because it felt so much like doing a play. All of the actors said, "This feels like doing a play, not like doing a movie." And that's one of the movie jobs I'm proudest of.
Nice.
Although, can I also mention, of the names you mentioned, and my heart kind of beat harder every time you mentioned one, you didn't mention Ron Howard. And this being Christmas, How the Grinch Stole Christmas movie is out, being watched again on TV, and maybe on big screens, I'm not sure. And being part of that has been a thrill. And Ron Howard's savvy as a director, because he grew up in front of the camera.
Oh.
Yeah, he was a child actor, and so he knows the camera from both sides.
Oh, actually, that's a really good perspective if you have knowledge of both.
Yeah, like being a director.
Yeah.
Yes, very meaningful. Some actors are so shrewd about what they see through the camera, but they've never really stood in front of one.
Yeah.
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 Okay, so we see that you have a current role on Star Trek Discovery as a character called Su'Kal. Were you a fan of Star Trek at any point in your life? And what planet is your character from?
I suppose you want an honest answer on Sleepy Hollow Radio. You deserve an honest answer. I'm old enough so that the original Star Trek was in my coming of age time. And I was not a big watcher. The original Star Trek, some people, and the most unlikely people, like fierce leftist theater radical circus people I knew, said, wait a minute, we've got to stop rehearsing. Star Trek is on. And I watched some, and I saw some of the movies as it began to become a movie franchise. It wasn't until I got to meet the cast of Star Trek Discovery that I really settled into the story, because Sonequa Green is truly one of the smartest and most generous actors I've ever done a scene with. And it's scary because you're, well, first of all, it's 3 hours of makeup. And then the day is already 3 hours old when you get to the camera for the first time. Television is done under time pressure. Television is done where the actor is sort of a cog in the wheel, and a lot of different people in different departments and their work all has to come together. So the pressure is high, and then one of the hardest things to do is relax. And fortunately, I got to start in this character as Su'Kal in a scene with Sonequa, and she was the most relaxing acting partner I think I've ever done a scene with.
So, on the topic of Star Trek, do you believe in intelligent life in the universe? I
definitely do. I can't, I don't have any science to put down my artist. But I think we're not alone.
Yeah.
That's my instinct. So yes, I don't think you all may live to see. I don't know that I will, because the one thing about Star Trek, it's so smart. They've invented something called time warp or time or warp speed. Space is so vast. Like I say, in my lifetime, I doubt that I'll live long enough for contact to happen, because so much time elapses.
Right.
But in your lifetimes, who knows? There might be a contact between life here on our planet and somewhere else.
That'd be so cool.
That would be crazy. Yeah, that would be very weird to see. But we also see that you played Atticus Nevins in the TV series Sleepy Hollow. So did you know that our actual high school is in the opening credits?
That I did not know.
Oh.
I know there's a map of Sleepy Hollow, and that there's a really great graphic that starts that show. And I did not know your high school was on camera. No, I did not.
You learn something new every day.
Yeah.
Wow.
So Mr. Frank often tells us how much he loved the show Northern Exposure. Do you have any words about your time playing Enrico Belletti, the man who can fly, on Northern Exposure?
Again, television is so expensive. Everybody who works in television says the same things. Like, we spend all this money. How is it that there's no time? So, fortunately, that cast had worked together long enough. It was a new show when I first entered their world and played Enrico Belletti. But they said to me, okay, you're the flying man. You don't know quite what that means, except that sometimes you show up here and then you show up there, and we have to assume you flew to get there. And that told me, well, that was about as much as I got to hear about the character, except the lines on the script page. And I tried to take on a relaxed but otherworldly character. It's a little bit like, okay, here's a Star Trek role. You're from somewhere else, and we don't know quite what makes you different from the human beings around you. And but the other great thing that settled me into that role was I got to work with an actress, the actress who played Marilyn. Her first name is Elaine, and I have lost touch with her. I don't know how she's doing, but I got to know her family. I was in a scene with her mother and father. And the story, the fascinating story was that her mother came to audition for this role, and he drove her there. Thank you very much. Who is? Oh, this is my daughter. Would she mind auditioning too? And it's a really Elaine has, and thanks to television, will always have for people to watch for generations, just a beautiful stage presence. So when they said, okay, you're Enrico Bellotti, and you immediately fall in love with this character, the actor's name is, I'm not even sure I have it right now. Is the actor Elaine? I don't even know. But they introduced me to a young woman. They said, you fall in love with this woman, a native actor who has a presence. And I said, okay, I get what you're saying. And not only can I do it, but I get it. And they say, good, action. That's kind of how television works.
Very quick.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's quick.
So, according to IMDb, it looks like there are several projects that you are currently working on that are set to come out in the near future. So, do you care to comment on what they are and where we might be able to see them?
I certainly do. Because I'm proud to be part of both of them. In this era right now, your high school years, my mature acting years, it's television and movies have returned, and the work is under such pressure because the COVID protocols make it twice as hard. Now time is all that much more pressured, and budgets are have to expand to pay for the protocols, and you often rehearse with your fellow actors with masks or shields, and only when it's time to actually shoot does everybody take off masks and shields. You're constantly tested, but under those conditions, people are still telling stories on camera. So I recently worked in Pittsburgh with director George C. Wolfe on a film that will be called Rustin. And it's the biography of Bayard Rustin, one of the great but lesser known figures in the civil rights movement. You must see it, because his is a story that has not been told. And I'll just leave it at that, except to say that he was a man to whom the world owes many of the achievements of the civil rights era, but he often wasn't given credit because he was a man in the early 1960s who was openly gay. I grew up in that time, and I do not know how he did it, it's unimaginable. He was African American and openly gay and a civil rights activist and agitator, and the world owes him a lot, and his is a very complicated story, and George C. Wolfe is the director to tell this story, and an actor named Coleman Domingo, whom I've known for years and years and years as a friend and a colleague. He plays Bayard Rustin. It is something that must be seen when it comes out, I believe, on Netflix.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah. And then from that, immediately, 2 days later, I jumped into a movie called, spoiler alert, The Hero Dies. It's a good title because that's what happens. The hero dies, and the hero, in that case, happened to be one of the two main characters, and in the movie, my son. So I played the father. I played Sally Field's husband for the second time in my life, and the father of an actor named Ben Aldridge, who plays the hero in this movie, who indeed does die of cancer within the story. It's a very heavy heavy movie and full of laughs at the same time. Because Jim Parsons is the other main character in this story. Jim Parsons and you guys will know him, and you'll know if I get the title of his series, The Big Bang Theory.
Yeah.
Well, that's Jim Parsons playing a character who, just to give you the boiled down version, is a character who never thought he really would be in a relationship because he didn't see himself as attractive or as worthy of it. Suddenly, he's in a relationship with a very charismatic, handsome guy. They somehow hang on together and get married. Then they, over the course of 13 years, they have marriage problems. Then the character who Ben Aldridge plays is given a cancer diagnosis, and the story goes from there, as it does for many, many families. So those are two jobs that I had just in the month of November, and boy, am I lucky and tired.
Yeah, that seems like a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm excited. I will definitely be watching those.
Me too.
Good. Oh, good. Thank you.
So, how do you envision the remaining time of your career? Is there anything you have not done that you would still like to do?
You ask some very good questions, and this is a huge one for actors of my age. The next time my birthday comes around, and boy, do they come fast. You all are in the slowest part of your life. You're like, oh, when will it ever be next year? And at my age, I'll be 72 when my next birthday comes, and they just seem to roll so quickly. And there's a question, you just want to keep working. And this is what my wife says all the time. Oh, you just do things because you're afraid to not be working. And that is absolutely true. But within that question of how I just keep working in the craft that I love, what is it? I mean, your question exactly. What is it that is most important to do in this elder time of your life? I still want to do the little bit of dancing that I have in me. So sometimes I have done a couple of guest appearances with a group called Freestyle Love Supreme. It's a Broadway show. If there's a chance to come into New York City and see Freestyle Love Supreme, I hope all of your colleagues and fellow students will do that, because it is a wild, extemporaneous, invented on the spot show 8 times a week. And occasionally they have guest artists, and I've been a guest artist a couple times, and I end up on stage dancing to hip-hop music, making up rhymes, freestyling rhymes, but also falling back on rhymes, because I love just the human act of ryming. This is something I learned when I was probably your age or maybe younger, and it has never left me, and it never will till it's this one. Mama told Papa just the night before last that he's a-stepping just a little too fast. And Papa said to Mama, can't you keep it to the beat? I said, a hazel cut your toenails, you're ripping the sheets. I don't know. I've known it all my life, and I use it in rhyming appearances. And it is a deep human need, I think, to hear rhymed words. So I hope to work with some rhyme, to continue to work with rhyming and dancing insofar as I'm capable. And the telling of stories is just a deep human need to hear them and to be part of telling them. And that's what I hope to keep doing.
Nice.
Right.
I think I can speak for all of us, but we're definitely excited to see what you do.
Yes, we are.
Thank you. Thank you. And actors, one of the big arguments in the acting profession is, are you as good as the best thing you ever did, or are you as good as the last thing you did? And I don't know the answer, but unfortunately, in the business, sometimes people say, well, you got to keep doing good things because you're only as good as the last thing you did. So I hope you find the last things that this actor has done to be good work, and part of good work and part of things that you are glad you went to see. Because, sometimes you go to see something and you think, it was okay, but, My life would have been
Yeah.
just as good or better if I hadn't seen it. But sometimes you think, I am so glad I saw that. And
Yeah.
I hope that at least some of what I do falls into that category.
Yeah.
I'm sure it does.
So,
You're very kind.
so now we're going to do a very quick lightning round of questions. So, I mean, you partly answered this one already, but how long did the special effects makeup take for your role on Star Trek and for How the Grinch Stole Christmas?
Both were about the same, and both were some of the same artists. 2 to 2.5 going in, 45 minutes to get it off.
Oh, wow.
And the 45 minutes seems longer than the 2.5.
Okay. What is your go-to snack while on set?
Do I have to be honest? I should have a banana. I often have some chocolate.
My favorite.
Good answer. Do you have a pre-performance tradition that gets you ready and calms your nerves?
Whatever will make me breathe deeply. And so whatever the space allows, or if you've got tons of makeup on, sometimes you don't get to do what you'd like to do. A yoga class would be great, but sometimes it's 30 seconds of deep breathing.
Got it.
Alright.
Okay. So in the spirit of holidays, do you send holiday cards?
I don't anymore. I go on email hyperdrive. I'm too old for social media, so I like to send some email greetings out, but I don't send cards anymore.
Well, I mean,
I don't
not
know.
a lot of people do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm thrilled to get them. I'm so afraid I don't get them.
So, last question, and we will play this song at the end of the interview also. What is your favorite holiday song?
Feliz Navidad
Beautiful.
It's a very good song.
is a great song, and you have to wait every year for it to come around again, so you get to hear it.
Exactly. Okay, well, thank you so much for joining us for
Yes,
this
thank
interview.
you so much.
Thank you both. Thank you, Mr. Frank.
Yes.
And good luck with, radio has a huge, important future. Everybody in show business talks about the resurgence of radio. So good luck, and thank you for your service to it.
Thank you.
Thank you, yeah.
Okay, well, that was all, and you're listening to SleepyHollowRadio.com. I'm Madison Morgan.
And I'm Margaret Andruss.